Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the F1 Pitcast. This is our Imola Grand Prix review. Tonight we're joined by James. James, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, it's good, mate. Really enjoyable race. Had a really good weekend watching it. I will ask you, mate, obviously, quick 30 seconds to a minute review. What's your quick review on the race this weekend?
Well, I was it was very interesting. I got into it very well. It was good to see, some teams that wouldn't normally be up there in the points. Yeah, some teams dipped into the points and then dipped out. Sonoda, he had a great start coming from the back, got himself up the grid and then fell way back off. Raikkonen was in the points for a bit, but then he got his penalty. It was good to see some drivers there. Really was.
No, it was brilliant. Yeah. It was like we were talking before the pod. It was weird because it had an amazing start for Max to go from P3 to P1 was unbelievable. And then it sort of died off a little bit, and then everything sort of happened at once, didn't it?
Yeah. No, well, actually, I heard that Verstappen actually started his car in second gear.
Yeah,
which is what gave him a good start. Yeah.
No, especially in the wet. I will talk about that start, obviously, from Max. He had a brilliant start, obviously. Flew past Checo, flew past Lewis. That incident, the lap 1 incident with him and Lewis, what were your thoughts on it? It was a weird one for me, but I felt like the rain sort of excused everything almost.
Yeah, I suppose it did. But then you do think about it, and he didn't give him a line. If you think about it, Hamilton had that inside line going into that next corner, and he did Verstappen take that line and forced Hamilton to go over those bumps, which, as we saw throughout the weekend, were damaging the floor of the cars quite a lot. But in the rain, you've got to allow for some small errors like that. Yeah. And I think it was just down to a racing incident in the end.
Not only that, it's almost like it's a world champion kind of move. It's like anything to get to the top, and he took a risk. And it paid off. I mean, don't get me wrong. When the incident happened on the first lap, I thought Lewis was gone. I thought his front rim was going to fall off. I thought he was going to drop to the back. He didn't. He kept some control of the car. He was able to keep Perez behind. But obviously, after that, the race sort of went on for a bit. I know there was a few safety cars, but it went on for a bit. And then all of a sudden, you've got Hamilton going off around lap 33 or something.
Yeah,
somewhere in the middle.
He went into the pits a lap later after Verstappen, didn't he? And you could think maybe he could have got ahead of him in the pit stop, but it was slightly slow by the Mercedes on the right front tyre.
Yeah, and they had to wait for Giovinazzi to get past as well, I believe.
Yes, they did. And then maybe if he got out ahead, he wouldn't have had the same issues that he had, which we know. No, in the medium tyres going onto the wet part of the track. That it was always going to happen, wasn't it?
It was. I thought, obviously, when Hamilton did go off, I don't want to say he was almost saved by the Bottas-Russell incident, but it minimised the negative impact. I know he still dropped down to P8 or P9, but he could have gone even further, and he would have been a lap behind as well. So
because of that red flag, he did actually get to unlap himself, didn't he?
Yeah, he did,
and that in the end saved his race.
Yeah, it probably helped him get the P2. But with that Bottas-Russell incident. And I know you're of a similar opinion to me, and I'm sure we'll get absolutely crucified for it. But in my opinion, I thought it was Bottas's fault when I first watched it, and I still do. But I know I'm wrong. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. Russell's going 15 mile an hour faster. He had the DRS, and he was going round the outside there. We know Bottas could see him because from the angles we've now seen, well, I saw yesterday anyway, you can see him look in his right mirror. And so he knew he was there, and then he still jolted to the right slightly, which going at those speeds, Russell's obviously going to be concerned for himself, which is what caused him to swerve to the right and then get onto the wet grass.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, take away the incident itself, the slowest car on the grid last year was overtaking the fastest car on the grid. And obviously you've got potentially the two people that are gunning for that Mercedes seat next year, and you've got one going past the other in a car that's a lot slower. So I mean, none of it was intentional, of course, but by sort of preventing Russell from getting past, it's almost savoured somewhat of Bottas's reputation, because obviously if Russell had gone past in a Williams and had finished ahead of him, it's going to be difficult for him to come back from that, isn't it?
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't really see much more of a future for Bottas at Mercedes anyway. Right now, I am finding it difficult when there's all this quality on the grid as there is at the moment. I really struggle to see a future past this season for him.
I do, and I think Bottas is. I mean, he's had a good career. He's done really well. He's won races. He's had podiums, but I do find that when he's not at the front, he cannot chase. He cannot overtake. It was like he didn't have the worst qualifying he's ever had, but he had a bad qualifying, starting P8 and to make no progress throughout the race. Bar maybe a few little ones here and there, but to make no progress throughout the race. And you've got Tsunoda starting in P20, who at one point was up in the points, and you're there and you're like, I know if you qualify P1, you'll probably win the race, but if you qualify P2 or below, you've almost got no chance of having a good finish, like would be expected of a Mercedes driver.
Yeah, because as we know, it seems to struggle running in the turbulent air behind other cars. It just seems never season after season now. It always seems to have struggled behind other cars, and it only seems to be at its best when it's not behind a car and it's out in front in clean air.
Yeah, but then again, if you look at Lewis, I mean, he went from P8 to P2. I know he didn't do it all within one lap, but he did it quickly, and he did it well. And I don't think many other people or many other cars on the grid would have been able to do that in those conditions. So it's how much of it is the drive in that kind of situation?
It was still, there was only one race in 9 really for a lot of the race, and to do overtakes, you were having to go on to slightly wet parts of the track, and it caused problems for the other drivers trying to overtake. But Hamilton, to be fair to him, he did always seem to do his overtakes in the DRS zone, and the DRS did look very powerful at this race. It was like it just seemed to give more power than most tracks do when you've got the DRS open.
And I think obviously having the little bit of wet on the outside of the track, obviously it wasn't much towards the end, but having that probably did make a big impact on how the DRS sort of negotiated with the conditions. But no, but it is. I mean, we said it after the last race, said it in the last pod, and I'll say it again. It is really great to see what could potentially be a proper championship fight this year. It looks like it's only going to be Max versus Lewis, but it looks like it could really go down to it. Hopefully, as long as Lewis doesn't run away with it, as he does tend to do for the past 7 seasons. But no, it is looking tight. But Lewis still leads by a point, and these fastest lap points could make a huge difference at the end.
They really could. They really could. They could indeed.
But no, anyway. But no, we'll end it because it was always going to be a quick one, just flying through. But I will ask you one question, mate. Obviously, at one point in the race, we were looking at a Max, Lando, Charles podium. That would have been the youngest podium in F1 history. Do you know what the youngest podium is in F1 history? Can you recall?
To be honest, no, I can't.
It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. It was Brazil 2019. It was a Max one.
Yes.
Gasly second, and then Carlos Sainz in third. After obviously Hamilton got demoted at that race for his collision with Albon. But no, it would have been great to see Lando and Charles. I mean, we always see Max on the podium, but it would have been great to see such a young podium because it's showing a new breed of F1. It's like if you take out Raikkonen, Alonso, Hamilton, and Vettel, it's a young lineup, and it looks like it will go. I don't think Raikkonen, I don't think he'll have much longer in the sport. I don't think Vettel will. Alonso's got a 2-year contract. I feel like if Hamilton wins it this year, he might retire. We could have a very young grid next year, which is quite exciting.
It is indeed. And one other thing as well, instead of that having the youngest podium, we actually had 2 British drivers on the podium, which was the first since China 2012. So that was good to see.
Was it the 699th and 700th people on the podium as well?
It was indeed,
So that was a lovely stat for the British fans. That was nice that Lando did it in the McLaren as well.
Definitely.
Which was brilliant. But look, we'll end the pod, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everyone who listened, obviously, to this quick Imola Grand Prix review. We look forward to speaking to you after the next race, which I believe is not this weekend, next weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, fantastic.
Portugal.
The Portuguese Grand Prix. That should be a fantastic one. But thank you again, James. And I'll speak to you soon, mate. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. See you later.